That was very helpful. And in fact, I feel like I'm definitely in a better place now after having this conversation with you, because you're right.
That's what I think makes your work different and better than others.
I definitely don't think I'd be engaged to him or in the relationship I'm in if I hadn't listened to you.
Sick of sacrificing or settling in your romantic life? Welcome to Make Him Wonder with Coach Paula Grooms, where women struggling in real relationships ask the expert. Unscripted, unfiltered, understandable coaching conversations to help passionate women succeed in love.
Hi there, and welcome to Make Him Wonder. I'm your host, Coach Paula, a dating and relationship coach, licensed social worker, and author of the book, Why Won't He Commit? How a Man Decides to Make You the One. My guest today is 32-year-old Olive, who is in a relationship with 24-year-old Jay. Olive and Jay are from different cultures, and with an 8-year age difference, Olive questions if there's a chance for this relationship to go the distance. She wanted to talk to me today about that and get my take on whether or not I feel it can, or if she should just move on. Welcome, Olive.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Paula.
You're welcome. So I want to get your history with Jay, and I always like to start off, as with everyone, how the two of you met.
Okay, so I met Jay about 6 months ago online.
And what was your first meeting like? Tell me a little bit about where it went and how quickly.
Okay, so I talked to Jay for a couple of weeks online, and then when we first met, we went on a date. We went to grab lunch, and at the end of the lunch, he actually asked me to be his girlfriend, which I thought was very, very sudden and kind of weird, or very unexpected, I should say. And I said yes. I feel like I was caught off guard, and I just went along with it pretty much.
And tell me why you did.
Well, talking to him, I felt the connection. We got along great. Our date went pretty well too. We had a lot of common things. So I thought, well, sure, why not? Let's just give it a try.
And when you say girlfriend, right from that first meeting, how did things evolve from there? What did you do next?
Well, after that, I saw him on a regular basis. After school, he would stop by, or before I went to work, he would stop by, and we meet up for coffee. Sometimes we would hang out after he was off from work or I was off from work. We would go on dates here and there, and he was constantly texting me, constantly talking to me.
So give me a little more, like when did it become physical, if it has, and you've been together now, 6 months. What's going on?
Okay, so I feel like the 3 or 4 months were good. As far as physical goes, we hold hands, we kiss. It never went to an extent as becoming sexually, not until, I want to say, 5 months in. It happened very spontaneously, where it was sort of the heat of the moment, and he asked, and I just pretty much was, okay, why not?
So you've been sexual for about a month?
Well, it only happened once, and that was it. It hasn't happened ever since.
Why is that?
Well, after that happened, he became distant. As it was, he was already becoming distant, and I felt like after us becoming sexually, he became more distant, and then things just started happening. I was in a car accident. I couldn't see him, and then he became very busy with work and school, and not only that, but when he did plan a date, he had to cancel, he had to reschedule, and so I haven't seen him now for like almost a month.
I'm sorry to hear about your accident. How badly were you injured in terms of actually getting around? What was it about that accident that impacted? Was it a hospitalization? Give me more about that.
Honestly, I'm lucky to be alive because the way it happened, I was hit by a trailer from the back, causing me to go from the first lane, swerving all the way to the left lane on the freeway. And somehow I ended up facing the opposite way of the incoming traffic and under the trailer at an angle. And thank God that nothing happened to me. I was able to walk out of there without a scratch. But I did lose my car.
Oh, my goodness. Bless your heart. My goodness. How are you doing with that trauma now in terms of driving again and recovering, not just physically, which thank God, I mean, it's unbelievable you walked away, but the emotional impact and how it's affecting your life overall?
When I drive, I do get sometimes paranoid. Like, there's times where you feel like everyone's coming to hit me. But, I mean, I try to take it day by day when it comes to me driving on the freeway or on the road in general.
Okay. So tell me about Jay's support of you when it initially happened, because if you weren't spending any time in the hospital, you weren't physically impacted, tell me, was he there or not there for you right away?
Honestly, I can say he wasn't there that day that it happened. He actually called me, and I wasn't able to answer his call because I was talking to the sheriff after the accident had occurred. Eventually, when I did answer his call, he was upset at the fact that I hadn't answered his call, and I explained to him that I had been in a car accident, and then he sounded worried. He asked if I was okay, what had happened, and where was I at. And it wasn't too far from where he lived, and I sent him my location, and then minutes after, he texted me saying, "You're about 30 minutes away. Do you still want me to come?" And at that point, I felt like he didn't want to go, so I just told him, you know what, don't worry about it, don't come. And so he didn't show up, and he didn't care to visit me at home or see how I was doing. He did text and call to check up on me, but that was it.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you an interesting question here. When you hear yourself back and in talking to me about this, what are you thinking about this man, this relationship, all of it? What are you thinking? Not what I think, but what are you thinking?
Honestly, to be quite honest with you, I really feel he doesn't care. I feel that he doesn't take this relationship serious. And hearing myself tell my story, I even feel kind of dumb.
Okay. I don't want you to feel dumb, okay? Because this is about your feelings, not about your intellectual understanding. And what's happening is you are having a wrestling match between your intellectual understanding and your emotions. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So I'm going to give you a synopsis of this, in my estimation, and ask you some questions about it that will be brief, because you need to make some decisions here and really not waste any time in seeing if this man can be more, or if in your question to me, if you should get out of it. So first and foremost, what is it that you're looking for in your life overall in terms of a man? In other words, do you want to just date? Are you looking for marriage? Do you want children? Tell me what you want.
I am looking for marriage. I do want to have a family, so I do want children.
So in what way is Jay showing you that that's what he wants?
Well, he has said in the past, and not too long ago once again, he says that he does want this relationship to be long term. He does want to get married. He wants a family, but that's just been words.
Right, because my question to you was, in what way is he showing you?
He's not showing me at all.
Okay. And that's why I assume you reached out to me, because you want to see how you can get him to show you if there's any chance.
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm. So you said the first, sounds like 4 months, were good, and you were kind of coasting along until this point where you had sex, and it sounds like it wasn't a discussed thing or thought out thing. It was just, okay, I'll go with it. Is that about right from your vantage point?
Yeah.
Tell me, why is it that you two have not been more sexual? Is that a religious thing? Is it moral? Is it waiting for marriage? Why is that?
Well, I personally wanted to wait. He doesn't have his own place. He lives with family. I live with my family. So there was no way of going to each other's homes. And he hasn't even put the effort in getting like a hotel room or anything along those lines. So I told him I wanted to wait until he at least made our first time special.
So what did you show him when you went along with it and had sex without it being special?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
You said you told him that you wanted the first time to be special. Was the first time special?
No, it wasn't at all.
So what did you show him by allowing that to happen and it not be special?
That I'm not special enough, or?
You showed him that you don't live by your word. You can be easily swayed. Now, this could be a factor in what has happened since, but I'm going to give you kind of a synopsis of what's going on in the male mind and what might be happening on his end. And I also want to talk about what I believe is going on for you as well, in a broader sense, that isn't serving you very well in terms of getting what it is that you want, which is marriage and children. And we're going to do that when we come back. So we're back with 32-year-old Olive, who is in a relationship with 24-year-old Jay. And before we took a break, we discussed how I'm going to give you, Olive, kind of a take on what I believe might be happening with him. And nothing happens with a man in a vacuum, meaning that everything that's happening with a man that anyone is with, it's in response to what you are doing, showing, and a little bit what you are saying to a man. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So from the outset, meaning from the very first time you met, there were a few things that, if were different, would have set you up for a little more success. So you have a first meeting from online dating. Does he know your age?
You know what? That's one important thing I left off. He knows my age, and he lied about his age in the beginning. He said he was actually 30, or about to be 30. But later on, I found out that he was actually 24.
Okay. So when you have this first meeting, you believe he's 30. Did he appear to be 30?
Yes, he actually does look mature for his age.
Okay. So he's a 30-year-old guy who you meet, and you say you're from different cultures. Do you want to reveal the difference in the cultures?
Hispanic, and he's Indian.
Okay. So what I mean by culturally, how do the two cultures that you just talked about display themselves in your relationship and make it known that there is a difference?
I would say from the different kinds of foods that we eat, the way... I'm not sure how to exactly answer that question.
Okay, so let me ask you a couple of questions. First, let's go with religious. Tell me about the differences in terms of religion, because there may not be any.
Well, to me, he doesn't seem to be too religious. I never hear him talk about him going to church or to the temple or anything along those lines. He's Hindu and I am Catholic. He knows that I pray. He knows that, for instance, at the moment it's Lent for us, so he knows that certain days or on Fridays it's Good Fridays and I don't eat meat. So he knows little things about my religion, but I do not know a lot about his, nor do I have seen whether or not he's very religious person.
Have you asked?
I have, and he didn't have much to say, actually. I noticed once he was wearing like it was sort of like yarn on his hands, sort of like a bracelet. And I had noticed it on someone else, so I asked him, "What is that on your wrist?" And he just said, "Oh, it's a religious thing." And that was it.
So there is a difference.
Yeah.
And a big one. And that's going to play out in many different ways. But just hearing about the two separate religions, and I'm not saying it can't happen for a couple to marry under two separate religions, but the couple has to be very, very mindful of working towards being together and in some way combining or paying deference to those, especially if you're considering raising children. Then we also have to take into account that certain religions do not allow for marriage outside of the religion. I'm not schooled in terms of Hinduism and knowing if that is the case or not, so I can't really speak about that. But the fact that you as the woman go along seeing a man without knowing this shows the man something that I don't believe will ever be helpful, and to a degree is very hurtful. What do you think I mean when I say show him something that isn't helpful and might be hurtful? What do you think I mean by that?
I'm not sure.
And this is where, Olive, you need to start learning about what allows for a man to choose you as his partner, possible wife, and certainly mother of his children. And for anyone listening, this is the case, always. A man has to see you as a worthy opponent. Do you know what I mean by that, Olive? Have you heard me talk about that?
Yes.
So if you know that, then think about it a bit. And I'm asking you to answer these questions because me just telling you doesn't help you to start getting on board and getting to a better place for yourself and helping yourself. So since you know what I mean by worthy opponent and understanding that, think about it again. What do you believe I mean when I ask, what are you showing him when you don't ask about his religious leanings, desires, the religion itself in terms of marriage and children? What do you think you're showing him?
That I'm careless and that I'm not serious.
Yes. To a certain degree. All right, let's go with that. But then you show on the flip side, you don't immediately get sexual with him. And remember, what you do with him, he thinks you do with all men. So that's a really good thing for him to see in terms of picking you as a possible wife and mother of his children. But then, like I said, without words, you went back on your desire to make a first time very special. And you showed him, I just go along and fall into sex. And for a man who is picking a wife and mother of his children, especially someone who is involved in a very strict religious, moralistic philosophy, because let's make no mistake about it, religion is philosophy to the greatest degree possible, belief system. You showed him I can be swayed to go against that. There is so many issues here to unravel, and if you would want this particular man and this particular relationship to go the distance, this is a lot of you getting right with yourself and right with what you must do. It's a lot of work. And what I mean by work, I'm hearing that you fall into something without thought because there was something about him you liked. Now, again, you thought he was older, but right from the get-go, accepting a request to be a man's girlfriend on a first meeting, there are so many issues with that, not the least of which is you didn't come at it from a worthy opponent strategy, meaning I have to see who you really are first before I would want to be your girlfriend. I don't know you. Why would I be a girlfriend to someone I don't know? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's something for you, which is really the crux of all of it, whereby you are feeling less than, not desired, not wanted, needy, lacking in opportunities. I don't know. And that's likely not how you feel intellectually, but your self-concept deep down. Do you know what I mean when I talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah. And that is going to harken back to your earliest experiences with your primary caregivers in your life, meaning your parents, whereby something from birth to your earliest years was giving you the impression that you are not very worthy, not very wanted, all manner of negative stuff that is actually in your self-concept now and is playing itself out with men that you like. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So if you concentrate there rather than on him, you will change this for yourself, and you will do yourself an enormous favor, and you're catching it early on. I want to hear about your other relationships with men. You're now 32. That means you've had a good 10, 12 more years of dating and possible relationships in your past. What has that been?
Well, before my current relationship, I hadn't been on a serious relationship. I just had been dating here and there, nothing serious. My last serious relationship was when I was in my early 20s. I was still in high school, actually. So it was around my junior year in high school all the way to my freshman year in college. So that relationship lasted about 3.5 years.
And did you have sex in that relationship?
Yes, I did.
And what made that end?
It was just too much fighting. He was always thinking I was cheating on him. He was a very jealous person, where it came times where we were just at the store, and if another man was looking at me, he was trying to fight them. So it was a very toxic relationship.
And that ended when you were 22?
Yes, roughly. I was about 22 years old.
So for the last 10 years, it's just been dating, or has it been a series of short-term relationships that actually some of them turned sexual?
Just dating, and some were sexual. I actually was seeing another man for a while. It was sexual. And then later, maybe 2 years after knowing him, I found out that he was actually in a relationship, or had been in a relationship for about 5 years. And after I found out, I basically told him that I didn't want to continue on with whatever we had going on.
So with Jay, when you found out he was 24 and not 30, when was that?
It had been about a month.
A month into the relationship or a month ago?
A month into the relationship.
And when you found out, what did you do or say to him?
I actually confronted him about it. So we were out celebrating his birthday, and I jokingly said, "Oh, so it's your 24th birthday, or is it your 30th?" Something along those lines. And then he just kind of looked at me shocked, and he said, "What are you talking about? I am 30 years old." So to this day, he still won't admit that he's 24 years old.
Well, how did you know he is?
I looked it up online.
Okay. So you know that he's willing to continue a lie with you even when confronted. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there have been many men in your life who have not been trustworthy.
Yeah, that's very true.
And what about your primary father figure?
I would say he's not.
Right. And you see, that's where it starts, actually. It's not that we grow up and the adult males in our life are suddenly, what we're talking about here, not trustworthy. It's that your programming is that men are not trustworthy because that's what you experienced from your primary male caregiver. So you actually find those men in your adult life. And it will be a cycle you will continue until you rectify it in yourself first, meaning you got to change that programming. But this man is showing you not trustworthy, not the age, not likely willing to work within the confines of the religious differences, likely not telling you what's going on for him at all, and certainly no matter what, showing you you are not prioritized, you are not worthy. The fact that you have an accident like you just described to me, and your man didn't move heaven and earth to get there just to be with you, says a lot. Would you agree?
Yes, I do agree.
Yeah. So intellectually you know that, but likely throughout your young life, childhood, you were mostly disappointed by your male adult caregiver, father figure, all of that. You were mostly disappointed, and they left you wanting, high and dry, knowing that you're not really worthy of time, attention, caring. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah. And so this is going to take work on your part to fix this before you can be right in a relationship and have the worthy opponent countenance about you so that you can actually ask for what you want, get what you want, not be in a relationship like what you are with Jay. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense.
Yeah. And you can do that. You just have to put your mind to that. It's just the human condition. You are a normal 32-year-old woman. You want a fulfilling relationship. So we think, well, if we just find a good enough man, right, the right man, that it will solve the issue. If only it worked like that. But unfortunately, it doesn't. Because the issue is, first and foremost, you being attracted to men who are good, trustworthy, honest, therefore you kind of guys. And that actually starts with your self-concept and not accepting less and not going for the men who are going to replicate your earliest programming. There's nothing stronger in our lives than our programming. And you've been programmed to have the beliefs that you do. And so what happens when we have beliefs about anything, we go out into the world and actually confirm our belief systems by finding, in this case, men who affirm them, meaning not trustworthy, not honest, not going to be there for you kind of guys. Then there's other things that kind of come along with that man that can be things like extreme jealousy, sometimes substance abuse. But being cagey in a relationship, not fully forthright, honest, that's what you're going to have. So this work can be done, and one of the good things you can take away is the work on myself is in my control. Something I can actually do that will change my relationships, and then doing what works with men under the worthy opponent, being the mechanic kind of approach. In other words, if we go back to when you first met Jay that night and he says, or will you be my girlfriend? The answer is this: my goodness, we just met tonight. That's very flattering, and I so appreciate that, Jay, but I'm not comfortable putting any kind of label like that on anything we're doing. I don't know you. I just met you. I'm certainly willing to, go out again and see. And if you had done that, what do you think would have been the effect on Jay, he would have had a different view of you. And that view would have been, I can't just push this girl around. She's not naive. I'm going to have to bring my A game. And I use it just as an example because I really don't think it would make much of a difference in this case. It wouldn't necessarily have made him not lie to you. But here's how men, generally speaking, look at things very differently than women do. When a woman from a very different cultural background, religious background, what have you, says yes to seeing them without time of that man showing, I'm worth your time. I will be honest with you and want to work out something because I care for you so much. Through time, without you doing that, I'm a pushover. I don't have much self-worth. I'm just needing the validation of being with you, maybe because I like you so much. I don't know in this particular case, but you see how it comes across as, I'll do anything for the attention. Just, I accept whatever, I do whatever. I don't have much of my own mind about anything. I go along. It doesn't serve you as a woman at all. And in terms of him going by the wayside in the way that he has, and just kind of breadcrumbing you, would you say that's the case right now?
Yes, it is.
It's because of a couple of things. In this case of him being the religion he is, and he probably doesn't feel very good about having sex either. Would you say that's true?
That he doesn't feel good about having sex?
He doesn't feel good about having had sex with you. It's not keeping in alignment with what you both set out not to do. In other words, even if you're not this great love of his, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about that because I think you should hear it. I don't think you are, okay? By virtue of how he's treating you, you're not. And because of that, if he has any decency about him, and especially vis-a-vis his religion, you don't do that, meaning have sex and walk away from someone who is showing you, I am a good woman, meaning not one in the category of Freud's Madonna whore, not one just to have fun with. You never showed him, I'm just that, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So he doesn't feel good about having had sex either. But he got his need filled in terms of getting you, and he's not in a place of wanting anything more. He realized after that, oh, I'm not really ready to be a real boyfriend. And if I am, and that's going to lead to marriage, it's likely going to be with someone else of my same faith. Likely. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I'm just going to pull away and trust that she's not going to ask me much of anything anyway, and I can just breadcrumb here and there and she'll be fine because you've likely shown him you're just fine. So there's a lot here that you have to change for yourself in order for this not to happen again with the next man and to have any shot at anything more with Jay. So let's just get down to brass tacks with it, meaning what has just happened and what could you possibly do to change this up? Would you want to hear that?
Yes.
Okay, let's also do that in just a moment. I trust you're enjoying Make Him Wonder and that you're getting a lot of helpful information for the life of love you desire and deserve. So if you're not part of the 80-20 Wonder Club yet, you need to be, because now Make Him Wonder is exclusive, a members-only club to listen to every episode, past, present, and future, in full, all ad-free. The 80-20 Wonder Club is a Make Him Wonder membership that gives you all of seasons 1, 2, and 3 in a categorized list by age and relationship status, and a multimedia library of my content, including my book, Relationship Evals, and my Making Magic with Men Mindset Manual, a weekly action step you can focus on to attract and keep the man of your dreams and have him committing to you completely in the coming months. Make this the moment you start living as an 80-20 Wonder Woman, because love, like life, is best lived in 80-20. When you do 80% of what works with men, the 20% you don't won't much matter. Join the 80/20 Wonder Club by going to the 8020wonder.club. Don't miss out. Go now to the 8020wonder.club. You and your man will be glad you did. So in order to answer the question and get to what you might do with Jay in order to potentially move him a little up the scale towards wanting something more, we need to find out what has been over the last month, 2 weeks, what have you. Tell me in a linear fashion from the time you had your accident up until now, what has occurred?
Okay, so after my accident happened, I didn't see him again, not until maybe a week had happened, and it was briefly. It wasn't nothing like, it was just pretty briefly. I had stopped by on my way home from work just to say hi, and that was it. And then after that, I haven't seen him ever since, and I want to say 2 weeks after that, I didn't hear from him at all for an entire week, and I didn't bother to text or call him. I waited until he initiated that, and when he did, it was as if nothing had happened, as if we had been talking the previous day. And so I was very short and vague with him, and eventually he stopped replying. And then it came to a point where I was feeling confused and didn't know where we stand. So I sent him a text saying, hey, at a point where I'm very confused, and safe to say that the relationship is over. After I told him that, his response was, you seem to have moved on. You seem to have moved on. And I forgot what the entire text said, but then he said that he wanted the relationship, that he didn't want it to be over.
And then what? What did you do?
And then, well, ever since that text till now, we text every day, but it's not something that's very consistent. Here and there, he'll call me, but once again, it's not very consistent either. And not too long ago, he called saying that he was feeling sick, that he hadn't gone to work, and that was it.
So tell me again, how long has this been going on? For how long? 2 weeks? 3?
I want to say about 3 weeks, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you what I feel is happening, okay? Because you're likely confused. Why are we seeing each other? Why isn't it back to what it was, correct?
Yes.
Wondering what I'm going to tell Olive, what I think about her situation with Jay, and what she must do when he reaches out again. Jay will almost certainly reach out again, as most all breadcrumbers do. I'm going to give Olive the psychological reason why that is. That isn't at all pretty, and what she needs to do to get her dating on the right track. And because I want you to get the results you desire in your romantic life, I invite you to check out the 80/20 Wonder Club to hear the rest of our discussion about breadcrumbing, and if it's happening for you, what you need to start doing to start getting the treatment you deserve. The 80/20 Wonder Club is an exclusive membership-only club of the Make Him Wonder podcast, where you'll get over 140 ad-free episodes categorized by age and relationship status, plus all new episodes the moment they're formatted and ready to be aired. Unfiltered coaching conversations like this one, with all my advice and principles to have you succeeding in your romantic life. But there's much more. The 80/20 Wonder Club now includes my Making Magic with Men Mindset Manual, a weekly video series for you to focus on each and every week. It alone is valued at over $500 and is all yours as a member. Join monthly and cancel at any time, or save by committing to a 6 or 12-month membership. And not only will you save by committing to more, you'll receive a full coaching intensive experience where you'll be talking to me in a conversation like you just heard. You choose the date anytime during your 12-month membership, and I'll be answering all your questions on getting what you desire and deserve in your romantic life. Check it out at the 8020 8020wonder.club. That's THE8020wonder.club, and join us, as that is the only way you'll be able to hear what I tell Olive and what she needs to do to start changing the heartbreaking results she's been getting. Don't miss out on how to make your man wonder in the right way to have divine right results in your relationship, or how to start dating in a way that guides a potential Mr. Right to do right by you. Go now to the 8020wonder.club. That's the 8020wonder.club. You and your love will be glad you did.